This is what I believe about human nature. We make the best decisions at the time with the tools that we have at the time, based on what our own experiences, based on our history, our experience. I don't have any regrets. And would I like to not have a pacemaker? Yes, but it doesn't really change anything about my life, my daily life. To me, two things were my greatest teachers: our adoption, and I would never be who I am today without that. And then the health crisis. I would never be who I am today without the health crisis either, because it opened my eyes to the limitations of our conventional medical model. The gifts of it, I have a pacemaker, right? So that's the gift. Emergency medicine, the gift. But it also opened my eyes.
Hello and welcome to Get Yourself Optimized. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer. It's my pleasure to have Dana Frost with us. Dana is a body, mind, and spirit alchemist who educates and coaches women towards optimal health to enjoy vibrant lives with the people they love and fulfill their mission in life. She hosts a weekly podcast, Vitally You, with conversations that provide inspiration and insights for feeling younger while growing older. Dana's been in the wellness industry since 2007. She has a lifelong commitment to continuing education, including certifications as a master life coach, aroma therapist, HeartMath facilitator, Myers-Brigg facilitator, light therapist, functional nutrition, and lifestyle practitioner. Dana's rich life experiences, including navigating the challenges and joys as a mom for 30 years to 5 children, 33 years of marriage, and living abroad for 10 years, empower her coaching practice. Dana, it's so great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Stephan. It's great to be here.
So I'd love to start with your origin story. How did you get so into the wellness industry? You could have probably gone any number of different directions. So why wellness?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, my education is social work. And so I've always been interested in human development. I got into coaching, Stephan, because we were living abroad. And we moved abroad in 1997. And prior to living abroad, we had this inspiration to adopt after, in conjunction with having biological children. So that was an inspiration when we were living in Minneapolis before we moved abroad, based on seeing other families in our Methodist church adopting children amidst their biological children. We got pregnant with our third and decided, okay, that's enough. That was unexpected. And so we have a house full, and we ended up moving abroad, which was one of our dreams. And after living in South America for a number of years, we decided that we had the bandwidth to adopt. And so after the adoption, I decided to hire a life coach. And the field was very new at the time. And it was unbelievably transformational for me personally. And I found it to be very empowering for where the tools I needed to help me in our adoption process and up level where I was to where I wanted to be. And so I became a life coach, and that's how I got into the coaching profession, which isn't necessarily the wellness profession. But fast forward, and I had a health crisis a few years after we repatriated to the U.S. We repatriated from Switzerland to Chicago at the end of 2008. That was a lot of heavy lifting for me. So repatriating was actually more challenging than moving abroad, because I realized we had been out of the U.S. for 10 years. And during that time, that was a period of a critical time in terms of how we were raising our family. And when we came back to the US, we felt very much like our family style was out of step with the family culture of the US that we moved back into, because family culture really dramatically changed from my upbringing, to fast forward to 2009. And so there was this period, Stephen, that included a decade's worth of stress. I would say abnormal stress, that whether stress is externally created or it's your own internal processing of the situations that you're moving through. The adoption process was one of those periods for me of understanding how stress impacts the body. I can go into that. I guess I'm just going to give you the overview, but I was beginning to understand that stress produced physiological symptoms in me. And one of my coaching tools is the body compass. And that's a coaching tool from Dr. Martha Beck, where the realization that your body is in continual communication with you. And if you can understand the way it's communicating with you, you can, be in alignment, your physical body with your soul, with your mind. You can bring those into alignment. Learning that through the adoption process and then coming back to the US and feeling trying to continue my coaching practice and help my family of 5 children adapt to, this new world we found, even if it was our home culture. That was about 10 years where I felt that my body was feeling the stress, even though I had tools and I was, using all my tools. My body eventually, it really did break down. This is how I got into wellness. So, for that decade, I'm paying attention to what I'm experiencing, how my body's responding, what my thoughts are about those things that are experiencing, and really just learning so much about how all of those things are so interconnected. Eventually, I had a very serious health crisis. I can talk more about that, but I'll just say I have a pacemaker. So the electrical conduction of my heart burned out. This is what the electrical physiologist said when we finally, did all the tests to understand why wasn't the electrical conduction of my heart, why wasn't it kicking in? And it turns out it was just a burned out body part. Now, I knew, because I had that information of, okay, this is my 10-year life experience. And my body was talking to me, and I knew that, like I could track it. I experienced it in the moment, but it still resulted in this burned out body part. And I can share a little bit more about episodes when I felt my heart was on fire. So going through all of that, and then the 2-year healing journey post pacemaker implant, I decided that I really wanted to help other people who were having health crises. I wanted to shepherd them through health crises, or shepherd them through optimizing their health, so that, maybe if they were having symptoms, that it didn't have to end in a serious crisis. If they optimized their lifestyle, their food, their stress response, then, they could avoid body breakdown. That's the cliff notes of how I got into really defining my work to be wellness focused. I think that what I experienced myself and what I know my clients experience is that, our conventional model, we go to our allopathic model, our conventional model, when we're having a health crisis. So many times, if it's an autoimmune disorder or a chronic pain, they don't really have the answers. Even in my case, they had the answers. So wonderfully so, they could implant a medical device that allowed me to keep living, awakened the electrical conduction of my heart, that got the heart pumping for me. So that's one way that they really shine. But what happened afterwards, I was still just as tired. So even though my heart was pumping and my body, I was still exhausted, and I was making the connections to stress. The electrophysiologist said, oh, there's just no connection. It's just a worn out body part. Following this path of digging for information, it's how I found HeartMath, trying to understand what are the connections between stress, the heart, the body, what happens to the body when we're under stress. When you're going to conventional model, which is where most of us start out, it can be very lonely, because if your intuition or your lived experience tells you that it's related to something or something's going on, and if that practitioner, that physician doesn't believe, or their experience doesn't match, they write it off. And you can feel like, I felt lonely, I felt discounted, I felt lonely and discounted. I guess I had a lot, isolated, I guess is another word. So for me, it's really important to support people and to help them find that there are actually so many modalities that fall outside of conventional medicine that really are effective at helping people heal. That was a very long-winded response.
Oh, that was great. Thank you for sharing all that. Wow, you went through quite the journey. Is the exhaustion gone?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes, that was so absolutely. I would say 9 months after my pacemaker was implanted, I found a integrative physician who took the time to dig into what was going, what was going on internally in the terrain, in the microbiome. She identified multiple things: parasites, gut dysbiosis in besides parasites, intestinal barrier. The integrity of my intestinal barrier was compromised. My adrenals were absolutely burned out. And I was in perimenopause. So there was really a storm of health variables, Stephan, that contributed to why I was tired. And so as you know, I was already doing some things. Had learned about adrenal fatigue, so I was trying to guide my diet towards healing my adrenals. I was already using HeartMath on a daily basis, but she helped me clear some of the pathogens and then really got me tuned into traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture, which supported the menopausal symptoms. So yeah, I would say a year after working with her, I felt better. 2 years after, I felt a lot better. I will fast forward you to 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, when I was introduced to LifeWave light patches. They use the light in your body as the power source. It's a little patch that's about this big. And you put the patch on your body on acupoints, and the light in your body reflects and sends messages to your brain to activate different biological shifts. So this is light therapy where your body is the source of energy. And it's just unbelievable how my energy now, it's way back to what it felt like, before I had this 10 decade worth of stress. So really, yes, my energy is back and better.
That's amazing, and what a gift! What a blessing! And how did you end up finding out about this light therapy?
So I had been researching stem cell injections for my mom. My father passed. She has arthritis. My father had passed, and she was keenly aware that her one ankle, it was really problematic. And she was, we had both been seeing information about stem cell injections. So I started this 2-year investigation into stem cell injections. And I was at the point in February of 2021, and I was talking to a nutrition colleague of mine about it. And I was at the point of saying, it's a lot of money for my mom to try to get to a doctor where you think you possibly are going to have a result that's going to be positive after investing, tens of thousands of dollars. And I was just sharing with her that, I was looking into this for 2 years, and I think that we're going to take a pass because it's the investment. There's no guarantee. And she has limited resources. So my colleague said, "Oh, well, let me share what I discovered helping my husband heal from headaches." And they were these LifeWave patches they're 2 stem cell patches. So 2 different patches that activate different copper peptides in your body, which is the evidence that there is stem cell activity. And stem cells, we know that they are intelligent. They go where the body most needs them. So at that time, this particular stem cell, the X39 stem cell patch, has a lot to do with healing. And so she said, maybe you could try your mom on the stem cell patches, and we've got pain patches and an anti-inflammatory patch. So I gifted my mom a set of patches. And within 2 weeks, she said, I don't think I'm making this up, but my swelling is down. My pain, I still am in pain, but it's much less. And so I was like, okay, let me look into this a little bit further. And I started on the patches, and within 2 weeks, what I noticed was that my skin, the radiance returned to my skin. And that's one of the results of this copper peptide that gets elevated. It has skin remodeling properties and skin remolding and properties for your skin. So I noticed within 2 weeks that my sleep was a little bit better, my skin looked better. And then I just really took a deep dive into these patches and decided I will be using them. And my mom's used them now. For her, it's been 2.5 years. And every year I ask her, what's your headline, Mom, on the patches? And she's like, I never ever thought that I would, I'm better than what I was 3 years ago, and that I can still be active and do the things. Yes, she still gets tired. She's, 80. She still gets tired. She still has pain, but it's not debilitating, and I think that, did it reverse her arthritis? No, but is it allowing her to have an optimized life where she is at this point? Absolutely.
Wow. And you're taking the patches on a regular basis still yourself?
Yes, absolutely. I wear the 2 stem cell patches every day. I wear the energy enhancer, which is the energy enhancer was the very first patch that was created by the founder and scientist David Schmidt. And he had a military contract and was asked to create a system that would support the Navy SEALs being able to be longer, work harder and longer, and have more stamina. And he created the energy enhancer. Well, 9/11 happened, and he was able to take, his contract ended, but he was able to take his patented patches. He was able to take them with him, and he founded LifeWave in 2003.
Wow. So what other modalities have you discovered that have just been a godsend for you or for loved ones or for clients?
That's such a great question. I think that light therapy, just to go back to my original introduction to light therapy, was in 2015. And it was a very good friend of mine. She had been using her sister actually had a tragic ski accident on the West Coast. She was having headaches. Her speech was off, her thinking was off, and she was not able to work. And she was seeing different practitioners on the West Coast. I think she was in Oregon at the time. And one practitioner said, I want to see if this InLight Wellness light pads will work for you. And her health was fully restored. I don't remember exactly how long it took. She rented the system, the light therapy system, from this practitioner for 3 months, and her speech, her cognition, everything was restored through these pads. I still use the InLight therapy. They're blue, red, and infrared pads. And they're actually, instead of, today, that idea of red light and infrared light, it's more popular. Back in 2015, it wasn't as mainstream. Anyway, I started using my mom first, thinking back to my mom, right? My mom had arthritis at that time too. So she started using the pads and noticed that, they're FDA approved to decrease inflammation, decrease pain, increase blood flow. Well, when you do all those things that light therapy offers, what do you have? You have energy that's been stuck that is now moving through your body. When you decrease the inflammation, you open up blood flow, then your immune system can make it to the places that need support. And so light therapy is, I started back with light therapy back then. What I found with the light therapy, InLight Wellness pads, a lot of people didn't have the patience, Stephan, to do a 20-minute session. So you have to, sit down, you put the pads on your body, and you have to sit down and do a session. And I really had a hard time convincing people that it was worth, stopping what they were doing. Again, think about it. It was pre-pandemic. Everybody was just like, think about how we lived like in a frenzy, just, thinking that we had to go at it 24/7. So I think that was one of the challenges I found for people, that they didn't want to sit down for that time. Though I know what I wanted to mention about this particular light therapy system that is very unique in comparison to most on the market. You plug it into a device, and it's not just the light hitting your skin and getting your skin to respond. It's pulsed with frequencies. It's pulsed with different solfeggio notes, binaural notes. It's pulsed with different frequencies to get a different response from your cells. And so I don't remember the name. The husband is the scientist behind it. It's a husband and wife team who own the company. But he was also in the military and spent years researching frequencies that the body responds to. To answer your question, light therapy, I am just such a huge fan. And the idea of stem cells, I think, are so powerful. But if when I look at stem cell therapy, and I looked at it for my mom, it's not affordable for everyone. For most people, it's not affordable. And the patches are affordable. So because I think of light therapy and stem cells, you have kryptonite right there when you talk about your own health and optimizing your health. So the other therapy is acupuncture, was a big one that really helped calm my menopausal symptoms. And I've sent many women to acupuncture for menopausal symptoms because things aren't flowing right in your body. We need the physical body shows the energy that's flowing. Is it flowing, or where is the energy stuck? You've got to interrupt that on a physical level and on an energetic level and on a mental level. You need all those, those mechanisms to be guided in a direction for harmony, for optimal health. Those are the three. I mean, you said I am an aromatherapist. Essential oils, just such an easy modality. I do HeartMath every day. I teach it to all my clients. I can't think of an easier way that really brings a person into coherence from a physical perspective. So your heart rate variability gets into coherence. That's physical. It's energetic. And then you are tapping into the innate intelligence of your heart. This is very, very powerful. So those are my highlights.
So HeartMath, let's talk a little bit more about that. What does that look like on a daily basis? What sort of kind of exercises or meditations are you doing? Why would our listener want to incorporate that into their daily routine?
So many reasons, Stephan. So HeartMath, the research shows that practicing these research-based breathing techniques is more effective than meditation. Because there are so many different kinds of meditation. So that when I say that, it sounds far too general. But when we are engaged, when our mind and our focus is engaged in an activity, and we're guiding the body through the breath. So if we look at, and this isn't what HeartMath is saying, but my framework is your breath is the expression of your soul. The first thing you do when you enter this world, you take a breath. The last thing you do is you release your breath. And if you look at the word breath in ancient languages, it's soul. It's representative of the soul. So it's the soul, the body, or the breath is the physical expression of the soul moving through this earth. So when you use your breath and you bring your focus, because HeartMath, it's not like a meditation where you detach. You're not detached. You're actually guiding the breath to be coherent. You're looking for that inhale and exhale to be roughly the same. You're envisioning the inhale and exhale to flow to and from the heart center. And so what they have found, because the heart has a resonance that can be measured, the energy of the heart can be measured far from the body, whereas the energy that's measured from the brain is very close to the brain. It doesn't leave very far from the head. That energy resonates from the heart, and it comes from the heart, from the place of love, from the place of intelligence. And when you connect into that, you create a powerful force field that they've shown in the research. I can tell you so many examples in my own life and, situations with my family where I've used HeartMath, and you can feel everything calming down.
And how many minutes a day does this take?
Well, so their research shows that if you want to change your default from fight and flight, let's say, so they're looking at coherence or incoherence. Are you coherent? Is your heart rate variability coherent? Where it's going, if you look at an echocardiogram, it's roughly the same going up and down. You also want your heart rate variability. Do you want a distance between it? So when babies have the greatest distance in their heart rate variability, and as we age, think about this, as we age, that heart rate variability, or as we age or as our health declines, that heart rate variability, it diminishes. And what do we have when we pass into the next life? We have a flat line. The heart rate variability is a flat line on the echocardiogram. So you want there to be distance and you want there to be coherence. So that's what they're measuring with these breathing techniques. Why would you want to practice HeartMath every day? So that you can be coherent, so that so that you can be resilient. Those are the two words they use. You're coherent and you're resilient, which means we are all going to get knocked down. Things happen. I mean, you get in an accident, you have a pandemic, you lose a job, your child gets sick, you get a divorce, you go on a big move. These things happen. And so when those things happen to us, what is our capacity for bouncing back? That's resilience. It's our bounce back. How quickly does it take us to bounce back? I can see in that decade for myself, that decade's worth of stress, my bounce back was flaccid. It wasn't robust. I had my tools. I was actually teaching a breathing workshop. So it's not like I was without tools. I was using my body compass, but I was lacking that resilience. I couldn't get my system securely supported so that, I would just get above the water. I was like functioning, probably above what is normal, but not, never rising above. So, resilience, coherence, mood modulation. What do you do? I can think about, I had a marriage crisis a couple of years ago. I already had these tools. I moved through that. I was devastated. Was I devastated? Yes. Was I sad? Was I angry? I was all those things, but in all those depleting emotions, I was coherent. And I had bounce back. I could still work every day. I could still do everything because my system was really built up with, I would say HeartMath was one of the premier tools. So those are the reasons you would want to practice those every day, because even when your heart rate variability is regular and coherent, you're healthier. Your immune system is healthier.
Now, you said earlier that your heart had burned out. Well, first of all, is that a gift in your opinion, or was that kind of a curse or some sort of unfortunate accident? And then kind of as a corollary to that, would you do things differently? Would you maybe undo the heart issues if you had a chance to go back and kind of wave a magic wand at your past?
That is such a great question, because I spent years regretting something, and I learned that this was before my pacemaker, but I regretted a decision that I had made for a number of years within that 10-year period. And I realized that actually was down regulating my immunity in my life, my joy, my happiness. And when I was able to make peace, this is what I believe about human nature. We make the best decisions at the time with the tools that we have at the time, based on what our own experiences based on our history, our experience. So I don't have any regrets. Would I like to not have a pacemaker? Yes, but I mean, it doesn't really change anything about my life, my daily life. To me, two things were my greatest teachers: our adoption, and I would never be who I am today without that. And then the health crisis. I would never be who I am today without the health crisis either, because it opened my eyes to the limitations of our conventional medical model. The gifts of it, I have a pacemaker, right? So that's the gift. Emergency medicine, the gift. But it also opened my eyes. There are limitations. And we have agency. I was able to learn that I have agency for my own healing. It's my body is actually my responsibility. It's my domain. And I am responsible for my thoughts that can cause harm to my body. I'm responsible for what I put into my body, how I move my body. It's my responsibility. I cannot outsource my health, my body, my thoughts, my emotions to anyone else. It's on me. I wouldn't have learned those truths had I not gone through what I went through. So I have no regrets, only gratitude.
Amazing. Very important. And if you could encapsulate the message that your heart burning out was there to tell you, what was that message?
That is such a great question. I need to ponder that for a moment. What was the highlight or the headline? Well, the body doesn't lie, and it does keep a record, and that actually is a gift, that the body remembers, and it's trying to bring us back into coherence. And so because the electrical conduction of my heart burned out, I gave myself permission to not try to hold up the world. I realized I overgave. I didn't ask for enough help from my family members. I was trying to, overperform and oversave other people. And that's never our responsibility. So I would come back to energy medicine. It also awakened me to the power of our energy body.
Yeah. And something about trying to rescue everybody all the time that's very problematic is that it interferes with their karma.
It does. Oh my goodness. I've learned, yes, it's absolutely true. We need to let everyone have their own journey. And as a mom, that is really challenging. We adopted two children. Well, I wanted to rescue, and I wanted to right the wrongs, and I think I've said enough about that, but everyone has their own journey. We can come alongside people and love them, but we can't walk it for them. We need to be respectful of whatever their life is offering to them.
Yeah. A great visual that I got from my friend Eric Lures, who was a guest on this podcast a while back. He's also psychic as well as a business coach. And he got this vision of me climbing the mountain, but also trying to pull a whole bunch of other people alongside me instead of just trying to summit the mountain. And that was such a powerful metaphor for my life at the time. I have to let these people have their journey. And so, yeah, I made some big course corrections because of that, but it took a little while.
It's not easy to change our patterns. I think recognizing them first is the first step. Just knowing the truth, and the truth shall set you free. I think that's the step one. And then, showing up every day to work it out is where, the real challenge comes in. And I would, yeah, every moment is a new opportunity.
Now, you said something about the body remembers, and that reminded me of a book called The Body Keeps the Score. Have you read that book?
Yeah, I love that book. Yes. Yeah.
What are the key headlines for you from that book?
For me, that book confirmed what I intuitively knew about what happened with my heart, and that I can remember episodes where I felt rage and I felt burning in my heart. It was very, very scary. I had never experienced that level of such intense feeling where I literally felt my heart was on fire. And if you fast forward and the electrical conduction of my heart burns out, and my electrical physiologist says there's no connection, HeartMath took me a book called The Heart Speaks by a female cardiologist, Mimi Guarneri. That's how I discovered HeartMath. And she talked about the connection between the body, the heart, and stress. And then, so I had that. Then I read The Body Keeps Score. And he goes into even more detail. So for me, that book really was the confirmation of what I experienced. And we all know that when we might know something intuitively, or our lived experience tells us that something is true. And if you can have we don't need validation, but when we get validation, it's so powerful. I can feel it right now, even just wash over me, that the power of having our lived experience validated by another human, whether it's a book or something that even just someone says to us, it's very powerful.
If you believe in soul contracts and in kind of our life being planned out by us or in collaboration with God or higher self, higher power, our angels, some sort of unseen support team, perhaps, then you would have chosen or planned out to have your heart burn out, and you would have planned before incarnating also to go through the adoption process. Do you feel that way, or?
Probably, yeah. I feel neutral. I think that I can see it in so many. What I believe to be true is whatever we experience, we made the choices. Everything led up to that decision. And, and so, and so it is. And, we have free will most of the time. Most of us do have free will. It obviously depends upon where we live, what the construction of the society is. And so if it's predetermined, I do believe that our soul comes in with a mission. Down to the detail specific it is, I don't have the answer if it's specific to every day that you live on this earth, but I do believe I came in with a mission and a purpose, to be a beacon of light and a beacon of love. I do know that. Unconditional love. How that plays out, I think adoption is part of, I can, one of the things that we say in HeartMath, or one of the processes, is remember, so the basics, let's just say the basics of HeartMath, so there's context for your listeners, is heart focused breathing. That is, you're inhaling and exhaling through your nose, and you visualize the inhale and exhale to flow to and from the heart. Now, what I tell people, physically, it should be deep, slow, quiet, and regular. That comes from the research of Dr. Andrew Weil. Your breath physically is deep, slow, quiet, regular. HeartMath, it's the visualization. You're visualizing the inhale and exhale to flow to and from the heart center. I can just talking about it now, I'm beginning to feel these these waves flowing to and from my heart. So that's heart focused breathing. Well, then they have one technique, heart lock-in, where you remember a time when you felt an emotion that was fueling. So they label emotions depleting or fueling. To be human is to experience all of them. We're never trying to X out emotions that are depleting. But remember a time, an emotion that was fueling. Well, I was so excited about our adoption. My whole family my husband was excited. Our kids were excited. I was inspired, inspired. I can call those fueling emotions up right now as we speak. I don't know why I said that. What you said that made me think about that. You asked something about HeartMath.
I don't remember what it was, but now I've got another question.
Okay.
So just imagine for a moment that your adopted children chose you, since you also chose them, at least, in this lifetime, if not prior to incarnating. And just imagine them choosing you, and you choose each other before incarnating, all of you guys. And what is that? What epiphany or insight or feelings or sense do you get out of that idea or that imagination?
When you were saying that, Stephan, I could see myself, like my soul self, looking at each one of them and locking eyes, and that sense of, I see you, I know you, and this is our path. Who there's so much that we don't maybe know with our mind, but our soul knows. And I can say, in my experience as a mother with a family and those relationships, there's divine orchestration. And I can, like, it has been, I can reflect as a daughter. What's become very clear to me through the years is I chose my family that created me. And I was always different. My husband calls me Matilda, if you know that reference to a Roald Dahl book. Matilda was very different from her family. She was like very studious, and her mom and dad were, kind of crazy and wild. And she was just very she was different. She was in a family, but she was like really very different. She was straight laced, very different from her mom and dad. And it was Danny DeVito. And in the movie, it's a Roald Dahl book, but in the movie, Danny DeVito and his wife, I can't think of her, she's also a comedian, they played the mom and dad. And so I've always felt different than, and it occurred to me, because I've explored it in different ways, I chose that. They taught me so much that I never would have learned in a different family, because even though we were so different, my dad was so full of unconditional love and acceptance. He owned a bar and everybody loved him. He just taught me so much about hard work and caring for people, just everyday people, that it's so important to see the truck driver, to see the teacher, to see just the grocery store person, just everyday people that you meet on the street, or, not just the people in your sphere of influence. But I really, it was just revealed to me at one point in my life that I actually chose that family. There was so much to learn from that family. So
What spurred that on? Was it a request, like a prayer? Was it just a thought, a curiosity? Was it some synchronicity?
in terms of that knowing, or
Yeah, that realization that
yeah, I mean, I think I was always curious, I think my curiosity about my family, the challenging stuff, the good stuff, you once you become, if you choose to have a family, you start looking at the family that raised you. And I mean, at least I did. I started looking at the family that raised me. How was I raised? How do I want to raise my kids? What do I want to do? And being very inquisitive about that, and recognizing I was doing some things differently, but some things, like the essence was the same, and making peace with some different aspects of my upbringing. So yeah, it was in a prayer, it was in therapy, it was in, a circle of friends. It was in, conversations with my own guides that are unseen. It was, you know, yeah, a real collection of different opportunities, encounters, knowings.
So what does a conversation with your guides look like now, and what did it look like when, like, the farthest back you can go in your memories of the first or earliest times that you conversed with your guides?
You ask really good questions. I love that. I love your questions. As a child, it was just like talking to God. That's all like my framework was super simple. I took myself to church on a church bus that came through our neighborhood just because I wanted, why? I don't know. I wanted to go. It's like my soul took me there. And, I chose to get baptized in early elementary years just because, my soul was just wanting the spiritual experience. So that's what it looked like. For many years, it really was a prayer. And the framework was, there is a God who cares about me and loves me and wants to be in a relationship with me. And I want to be in a relationship with God. And it wasn't really masculine or feminine, to be honest, but it was just God, this idea of God. I would say that living abroad, what I started experiencing is that light and the energy source of, if you want to say God, is just an easy way to try to encapsulate a higher power. I was noticing I could see it in different people, and it wasn't necessarily connected to a specific faith. I noticed that. And then I started noticing that I had beings that I couldn't see that wanted to communicate. And so then it's just conversations. And sometimes I write them down. I mean, I don't write them down as much now, but in the past, I wrote a lot of the conversations down. And for a while I was like, oh, is this prophecy? And then I was like, it's not really, doesn't need to have a label. It's that there are guides. I mean, my dad is one of my guides. He's on the other side. My great grandmother is one of my guides. There is a Native American figure that is a guide. There's a source that seems to come from alien life source that is a guide. So it's conversations. It might be, it's numbers. I would say this summer, they're communicating to me through numbers. So I will tell you this story because this is when things also opened up. Living in South America, and my husband was traveling, and I had two of my daughters in bed with me, and I woke up in the middle of the night and there were 6 bats swirling around my bed. And first I was scared. Anyway, they ended up getting out of my room, and I was so curious, what is this in bad omen? Like, you think bats, it's a bad omen. It's night, it's scary, it's dark. My life coach at the time, I brought this to our session, and she said, have you heard of the book Animals Speak by Ted Andrews? He's no longer, the book.
I love that book.
Yeah. And so she got the book out and read it. And I said, oh my goodness, that fits, so that was a message to me. That was the first time that I also recognized even the animals are communicating with us. Like, literally everything around is energy, and there's a support system saying, hey, I'm here, I'm with you, And if when we open our eyes, ourselves to all of that, it's there.
Yeah. One way I like to frame it is that if there's a movie set, let's say it's a bedroom and there's a end table or some sort of side table with maybe a book on it and a table lamp and so forth. All that stuff was placed there. Nobody came in surreptitiously and dropped a few things there, like a watch or a couple of receipts or whatever. It was all placed. Everything was placed there. And that's how our life is, and that's how the environment is. Everything is placed. Nothing is by chance. Nothing is random. Nobody just kind of snuck onto the studio movie set and just randomly placed some things, and then everything else was placed there on purpose by the stage crew or whatever. So that means that everything here is on purpose. If you happen to be looking out the window while you're doing a podcast interview and you see whatever it is, a monarch butterfly or an ibis or a Muscovy duck or whatever, that's not by chance. It was placed there just like every object on that side table would have been placed there by the crew that works for the movie studio. So yeah, if you're getting numbers, if you're getting animals kind of in your purview or in your scene, if you're getting um, songs or little lyrics or bits of conversation that you're catching and other parts of the conversation you're not catching, maybe it's some seemingly random couple seated a couple of tables away from you. Like it's all part of the experience, and it's all by design.
Absolutely.
By the way, I'm feeling the message I'm getting for you is that you're being invited to write down more often, like because you mentioned that you kind of got off of that habit.
Thank you.
They're encouraging you to journal what you're receiving.
Okay. Thank you. I will do that. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it feels to me like it's kind of like breadcrumbs or connecting the dots, and it only makes sense after you've finished. Like, oh yeah, that led to that, and that led. Oh, all these things connect up, and you can't really do that if you didn't write it all down. You have to try and remember everything and how everything interrelates. Yeah. Yeah, I journal every day, and if you would have told me this a couple years ago, I would have said, "Oh, never." I've gone 50 years without journaling ever. I'm not going to start now doing it every day, but no, I can't imagine not doing it.
Yeah. I used to. Yeah. That's a really good word. And I'll take it not just to heart, but to pen and paper.
Amazing. Well, I know we're out of time, so if we can leave our listener or viewer with one last little bit of wisdom before we wrap up the episode and share your website and socials, what would that nugget be?
I think what I'm feeling based on where our conversation has gone is there are no mistakes. You're not a mistake. There are no mistakes. And really take in the beauty of who you are as a human and appreciate the gift that is. No matter where you've been, make peace with whatever's happened so that you really can shed the heaviness.
Great advice. And where do we send our listener to learn more about you and work with you?
Yeah, so I have a website, danafrost.com. I have a podcast that airs weekly, Vitally You, and you'll find that anywhere where podcasts are posted, Apple, Spotify, etc. I haven't been active. I was so active on Instagram, but I went away this summer on this transformational retreat. And so I haven't picked up Instagram again. And I've been very curious about that. So I would say Instagram, I do have a presence there. I haven't been active, and we'll see when I'm, led to re-engage. So
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dana. Thank you, listener. We'll catch you in the next episode. In the meantime, shine your light bright and make it a great week. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off.